What did we learn about Trump's foreign policy after the sudden Israel Iran conflict and the subsequent ceasefire? Welcome to Foreign Policy with Dan, where we examine things happening all around the globe, measure their impact, and discuss the nuances of diplomacy. This conflict moved fast, and so did Trump. Within days of Israel striking Iranian targets, U.S. B 2 bombers were in the sky. But by the end of the week, a ceasefire was already announced. So, what does this all tell us about how Trump is handling foreign policy in his second term? Let's break it down. 1. Misdirection as a strategy. Remember that 2-week time frame Trump mentioned for U.S. involvement? That turned out to be a little misleading. Following Israel's attack on Iran, Trump stated that he would make a decision within 2 weeks on whether or not to strike and get involved directly with Iran. Just days later, the U.S. was in and then out. Whether this move fooled Iran is unclear, but the message to the rest of the world? Trump might say one thing and do another, intentionally, which really isn't a surprise if you've been following Trump for years. However, the significance here is that it's done on a global stage with massive implications and potential nuclear consequences, not just to squash his political rivals in the U.S. That unpredictability could be strategic or reckless, depending on your view, and we will likely never know if it really impacted the operation or Iran's readiness at all, but it's notable nonetheless. Secondly, bold and decisive. Trump didn't hesitate. The decision to enter the conflict and deploy U.S. bombers likely happened very early, possibly within hours of the first Israeli strikes. And just as fast as the bombers flew, he was working on a ceasefire. This was a massive decision made in a very short time frame, and much of the credit should go to the hardworking staff that have likely been working on this issue for years at the State Department, the CIA, the NSC, and the DoD. Their preparation is what made it possible to plan and execute something so fluidly, all while providing leadership with the best information available. In a high-pressure, intense situation, the administration did respond swiftly and with relative effectiveness to resolving the conflict, at least for now, and that's something that should be commended. Thirdly, he uses social media to apply pressure, still. Trump announced a ceasefire on social media before Israel or Iran even confirmed it. This public move may have boxed both sides in, forcing them towards a de-escalation, but it also gave Trump room to criticize further actions without being tied to them. This isn't really new to Trump. He has long loved using his smartphone to broadcast his messages to the world. The fact that he was doing it with such a delicate, nuanced situation is a bit concerning, to say the least. All-out war in the Middle East is not something you want live tweeted, play-by-play from the president about, as it could negatively impact hard-working people on the ground trying to figure out solutions. Any of the president's posts could have undermined ongoing work by diplomats, military personnel, and agents working hard to bring the conflict to a conclusion. One more thing worth noting, he's willing to call out Israel, at least to some extent, in the media. Trump was furious with Iran and Israel for breaking, quote-unquote, his ceasefire shortly after he announced it, even using some colorful language to show his frustration. One clear priority for Trump still stands, number 4. That's preventing a nuclear Iran. Even if it means stepping away from his America First stance or getting temporarily involved in a foreign conflict. Whether or not you agree with Trump's decision to bomb the Iranian nuclear facilities is up to you, but it is a massive moment in foreign policy and one of the most consequential military operations since the assassination of bin Laden. The efficacy of the strikes will ultimately determine if this was a foreign policy win or loss for Trump, and I'd advise you to take a wait-and-see stance on this issue. It will take some time to truly understand the level of success or failure, Until that time, you will see all sorts of claims and assurances by both the Trump administration, by Israel, and by Iran. The only guarantee right now is that nobody outside of Iran knows the level of impact, and Iran is not going to be honest about it no matter what. Shortly after, Trump traveled to the NATO summit with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, signaling that his foreign policy team is fully engaged with the transatlantic alliance. And frankly, NATO gave him an extremely warm welcome, as I'm sure most of them were happy to have a nuclear Iran potentially off the table. So what's the final takeaway? Trump's foreign policy is fast, bold, and very Trumpian. But it's also calculated and sometimes unpredictable. Is that what we need right now? That's up for debate. I'll let you decide. Let us know in the comments if you've got any questions, anything you want me to look at further, or anything you just want to hear me talk about. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more breakdowns of global events.